I'd like to ask you about the Hong Kong economy. You say that you're not too optimistic about global growth and that there is a chance of Hong Kong entering a technical recession. Are you talking about the near term, and what's your outlook for next year?
Well, this I'm talking about the near term. Hong Kong is doing exceedingly well. As you know, we did 7% growth last year, and we're going to do at least about 5% growth this year. But in terms of what I've seen in Europe and a slow recovery in the United States, global trade, we're going to be trending down. And we are the intermediary between major trading partners in the United States and China. And I'm sure there will be a slowdown. So I do not rule out the possibility of a technical recession. That means that about a couple of quarters we're going into slow growth or even negative growth. But I'm totally speculating. I hope it will not happen. But I'm a pessimist, so I usually prepare for the worst.
Well, I guess that's what you have to do as a policymaker. One potential risk factor over the next several years could be what we call here a hard landing in China. Are you looking at the possibility of this scenario since you're a pessimist and you have to prepare for the worst?
That is far less things that I worry about compared to what I've seen in Europe and in America. China is a closed market, and if the administration, what I'm sure the central government is monitoring growth and monitoring speed of growth very carefully. If there's any signs that they believe they're going to have a hard landing, they will certainly do corrections. I do not see a hard landing happening in China. In fact, I would see that they were able to maintain a growth rate about 8% or so for quite some time to come. First of all, there's a heavy infrastructure investment made a few years ago, and that's likely to good part of that hasn't been finished, and they have to finish that whole thing. So capital formation was pretty strong. And at the same time, there is domestic consumption is growing very rapidly and very steadily, replacing some of the export-oriented trade that they have so far. So I think it will going to be a much more steady, durable, and I think balanced growth in the near and medium term.
I want to ask you about the Hong Kong dollar, because Bill Ackman here in the United States says that he's buying call options on the Hong Kong dollar, and there's growing expectations that there will be some sort of shift in policy because, for instance, the Chinese RMB has risen almost 30% over the last decade, and the Hong Kong dollar has not moved because it is pegged to the US dollar. I know you don't have any immediate plans, but what is your response to this?
Well, I think it's going to lose a lot of money on that. I think it will not going to happen. Hong Kong has been linked to the US dollar for nearly 30 years. We have seen good times, we've seen very bad times, but Hong Kong has stuck with it because we believe it's going to inspire confidence in the market. People have to understand that our trade is more than four times our GDP. And that trade depends on stable currency parity with the major trading partners. And the linkage to US dollars just underpin that. It is something which is very important to anchor Hong Kong's growth, Hong Kong's monetary stability, and it will not going to change. And certainly in my term, it will not change. My successor, I'm sure, will have seen it the same way.
All right, Bill Ackman's going to lose money. You told him.
I've told you.
You've told me. I'll tell him. What about the Chinese currency, the RMB? We talked a little bit about it inside and the internationalization of it. When do you think it's going to be fully convertible? And perhaps then Hong Kong could consider making a change.
Yeah, but it will not be a short term. It will be pretty long term. Look at the way in which the global market is so volatile. Every nation will have to look very carefully. Want to change its fundamental monetary policy, like the convertibility of its own currency. Will be very, very, very long move. Say, for instance, there are Korea, there are Taiwan out there who have been trying to make their currencies convertible for the last half century and haven't succeeded yet. And with a major nation, major economy like China, it would take a pretty long time. But we are helping in the process. In Hong Kong's case, we are doing a lot of offshore work for Renminbi, making sure it's trading in an international market, and people get familiar with it. And we are creating derivative products for it. We are creating a bond market for it in Hong Kong. And it is helping it to get internationalized. But as I said, it will not happen in, say, a few years.
And very quickly, I just want to ask you, you say you're worried about the United States and Europe as the top concerns and your pessimistic view. Has it been frustrating to watch the policy decisions and the dynamics in both of those places?
Well, politics is always frustrating. What is happening in Europe and North America also, I think In America in particular, it's not an economic issue. It's a very strong economic power. It's political issues which is tying its growth. In the case of Europe, it's a bit more complicated. There are certain countries which from the look of it, is insolvent, and the market must protect itself, and therefore certain eruption which are going to take place. But we are dealing with a conglomeration of 17 nations. Each one can overturn any major policy made by the Commission itself. So I'm afraid it's frightening.
Europe
Yes.
or the United States or both?
In Europe, it's frightening, and I'm afraid even in the United States, I do not see any major rapid recovery of the economy, at least before the presidential elections. But as a politician, we only look at it more or less 1 or 2 quarters times. It would be quite, to us, from our point of view, it would be a pretty tough time for the rest of this year and a good part of next.
All right, thank you.